Welcome to the Quirky Brain Club podcast. I am so excited to talk about this because this is something that I have been wanting to talk about for an age, especially since I kind of came back to doing my online iteration of my business about 6 months ago. How did I get comfortable with selling to the point where it now is just, I'm so comfortable. It wouldn't even occur to me not to sell. And yet that is so different from how I started out in my business 15 years ago. I'm going to share with you all the things that have helped with that journey and some of the things you can take away from that as well. I'm excited to dive in. Right. Picture it. Sicily. Sorry, I'm rewatching The Golden Girls at the moment. It's on Disney Plus. It stands the test of time. If you want some nice comfort viewing, The Golden Girls, entirely unproblematic. Obviously, it was the 80s, but my goodness, so good. Anyway, picture it. When I first started my business, the idea that somebody wasn't just going to give me money in exchange for what I did, I was going to have to ask for it. Imagine me 15, 16 years ago, starting my own business. And I had wanted to start my own business for a long time. I was scared to do it. And one of the biggest barriers was the fact that I hadn't wrapped my head around selling my own services. Like, there was one thing, having been employed for a long time, I go in, I work really hard, I burn myself out, I come back, I work really hard, and people give me money at the end of every month for that. And it wasn't a huge amount of money, but I never had to actually say, it will be that much for my week's work. I never had to have those conversations. I never had to put proposals together. I had no idea how to get clients. I had no idea how clients even found you. One of the things that kind of started me on my way, well, there was two things. The first was that I had started coaching within the organization that I worked in. And that organization was going through a huge amount of change and lots of redundancies and layoffs and things like that. And so I was doing an awful lot of redundancy coaching and resiliency coaching for people in that, and developed a word of mouth reputation through that. And and a handful of people would say, could you carry on coaching me after I've left the organization and I'll pay you for that? And I was like, what? And then, could you coach my brother-in-law because he's just lost his job? And I go, so I started getting, I guess, a referral-based, tiny weeny little business kind of coming along. It certainly wasn't enough to support me full time, but there was enough there. People came to me. I was incredibly lucky because I don't know if I'd have done it otherwise. Also, as part of the organization that's going through all these layoffs and redundancies, I was also being made redundant. And so I was kind of pushed into doing it. And I was so terrified that I took every course I could get my hands on. I really spent about 2 years just studying. Now, I learned a lot. It was really good information, but it was also a great way of convincing myself that I was being really busy and active in building my business, when actually a fair amount of it was kind of displacement activity, which we can all get into. And I was really fortunate that I had enough of the word of mouth work to keep me going. I also got a part-time job. We had enough money, but my business wasn't doing great because I still had such a deep discomfort around marketing and sales. I bumbled along for the first couple of years. Everything I earned from coaching, I pulled back into coaches and masterminds because I wanted to outsource the responsibility for my success. I had no idea how I could take control of that. I learned a huge amount. I learned how to copyright. I discovered I was really quite good at copywriting for other people. Terrible at it for myself, but I was really good at doing it for other people. I was really good at almost like translating what people were trying to say and converting that into words and messaging. I remember spending what still makes me think, God, that was a lot of money, on a mastermind course, which involved a trip overseas to the US, where I met some lovely people and discovered while I was there that the person running it was like, oh, you don't really know what you're doing. And she taught some really basic stuff. kind of thought, why is she successful and I'm not? And the difference I could see was she was brazen. She had no problem telling people how brilliant her work was. And that's no shade to her. I didn't think her work was that great, but it was good enough for lots of people got loads out of it. And it got me thinking about why I was holding myself back so much. So I really spent some time focusing on the value of the work I was doing because I knew I was a good coach. I didn't quite know how to put that into words. And so what I did is I started having conversations with people I'd worked with about what I found useful. I did some market research. I got some feedback and I started collating the the feedback that I was getting. And from that, that gave me some evidence to stand on and kind of go, I'm not bad at this. I wasn't at the stage, I'm brilliant at this. Bad at this. I stopped trying to be something I wasn't. I would love to say it was strategic, but I honestly think it was just exhaustion. I just couldn't keep up the mask of, I'm a professional person anymore. Yes, I am professional, but I'm also, have a brain like an octopus. I'm trying to keep in a cardboard box. I go off on tangents, have lots of energy, get excited and struggle with certain things. I started being more honest about that stuff. And so those two things, that belief that I'm at least decent at this and I'm going to stop pretending to be something that I'm not, I'm going to let more of myself out, really started to have an impact. People started to connect with me and what I was saying a lot more. Once I started being more authentic, sharing my opinion and finding the things that I enjoyed, like I really enjoyed podcasting. I quite liked writing, but it was very, very energy intensive and it took me a long time. Fun fact, discovered 10 years later, I was dyslexic. So I focused on my podcast, teaching classes and doing free things like webinars. My audience started to build and clients started coming. It was slow at first, but then it picked up and that was gratifying. That had been the second big one. The first had been actually gathering some data to show to myself that was at least not terrible at what I was doing. The second was learning to unmask and be more of myself and be more authentic. And the next big thing that helped along this journey was finding other people. So finding a community. And for me, it was people that I either met on courses. So either I paid to join a mastermind. I met some amazing people through that and realizing that I could not just hold my own in those, but I wasn't out of my depth. I think that had been my kind of unconscious assumption was that everybody else was being able to do things brilliantly and I was just terrible. Now, don't get me wrong, there were some courses where I really did feel like everyone else seems to be getting this. Why aren't I? There were some that were not well run. There were some that were not good at tending to different needs and learning styles within a group. There were some that were not rooted in empathy and learning, but there were some that were. But those ones, it was great to feel that I was amongst peers and to get positive feedback on the work that I did, be able to give and receive feedback, people asking my opinions, realizing, oh, I know about that and I can share that. That really helped my confidence. Also having people who could become like a sounding board. Because one of the things that I now know is very likely due to my neurodivergence is that I'm really good at spiraling in my head and I can overthink things. Having people in my life who I regularly meet with who stop me from doing that, absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I'd gone from thinking I'm not terrible to I'm actually quite good at this. And the more I worked with people, the more I got that feedback. I wish I could tell my younger self, because I just get as much coaching experience as you have, and listen to the feedback. Actually hear the feedback. Stop discounting the feedback that you're getting. So when somebody says, I've never thought of it that way, that's amazing. If somebody comes back to you a few weeks later after a session and says how useful it was, believe them. People don't give stuff for the good of their health. Believe people when they say, was really helpful. That really impacted me. And then ask, could you tell me a bit more about that, please? Could I quote you on that? Could I record that? Get into the habit of asking for feedback. Ask them questions like, If you were recommending to a friend that they worked with me, what would you say to them about why they should do it? Or talk to me about where you were before compared to now that we're in the middle of work and we've finished working. They're such great questions because what I find that with a lot of us, our brains are so good at spiraling and go, well, you're just a piece of crap. They're just being friendly, aren't they? They're just trying to be nice. They just want to get on the right side of you. They just don't want to be, that kind of chatter. And when you can look and kind of go, look, here are 15 people I have worked with who've all said, this was really helpful because of this, this, and this, or this is what I've changed. It becomes harder and harder for that part of your brain to take hold. So there's the increase in confidence, realizing I was pretty good at what I did. There was the realization that there were people who weren't quite as good as what I was, who were making a really decent living from this. And then working through my money stuff, wrestling with the tension of being in a system of exploitative capitalism. Most of us live in societies where capitalism rules. It's exploitative by and large because you have billionaires who, rather than solving real world problems, are going into space instead of addressing things like poverty, hunger, the climate crisis, all of that stuff. And thinking that is so evil, that is so messed up. I don't want to be part of that. And yet acknowledging the fact that I operate within that system and me charging for my services and making a profit does not make me Elon Musk, does not make me part of the problem. That was hard. There was a good few years of me wrestling with all of that stuff. And I really struggled with, if I make money, do I become a bad person? Then I realized that actually me being able to pay my mortgage each month does not make me Jeff Bezos, does not make me be destroying the planet. It means that I can operate out of struggle. And that gives me a bit more empowerment. And I get to do what I want. As a lefty, as a socialist, as somebody who deeply cares about things like the environment and social justice and inequality, being poor, me being in poverty, and I have been in poverty, I very much know what that feels like. That doesn't help that situation one jot. So me sacrificing myself at the altar of not wanting to be a bad person because money equals badness was really not a helpful belief. After I did a lot of money work, the whole raise your vibe and manifestation stuff like that did not jive with me at all. I did not get anything out of that. I am not a fan. But what did help was looking at, okay, what's some of the conditioning that I'm carrying around about money and wealth and being a woman and being a white woman in a wealthy country and the damage being done and all of those intersections. And this realization, we have such an individualistic culture. I think the trick that the big oil companies and the big pax billionaires and the ultra right, the greatest trick that they play is taking these global challenges and pushing the responsibility back onto us individuals. When we have so little power and influence over these things, yes, we can recycle. Yes, we can go on demos. But compared to a billionaire, we have so little influence. By keeping ourselves small, we disempower ourselves further. Being in survival mode and equating earning money with being a bad person wasn't helping anyone. It makes no sense if my family is struggling. We live in this system which requires us earning money to thrive. Me earning an amount I can thrive on is a good thing. We should all be able to earn a living where we can thrive. I don't exploit people. I'm not doing any more damage to the planet than the next person. I'm certainly doing a lot less than the billionaires. Then So I almost got to the point where actually making money in my business is neutral. Not sure if I'm ever going to be able to get to the point where I'm just like, being a billionaire is great. That might be a step too far for me, but I certainly got to the level of thinking making money is neutral. It's fine for me to make money. If I can make an amount that I can not just survive on, but thrive on, then many other things become easier. I can shop at small businesses because that's the kind of person I am. I will hire other small businesses to do things for me. I can put money back into my local economy that is a good thing. So I got comfortable with earning money. There were some other things of conditioning there. I was carrying around wonky beliefs about sales and marketing. The first one was, I don't be bothering people. I want a relationship with my audience. I love the relationship I have with my audience, but there's a kind of a whiny little part of me that like, oh, I want to like me. I don't want them to think I only want them because they're going to pay me. The reality is I have made many wonderful connections with my audience, with people in my audience, with people in my courses. Everything I do, I want it to be good and useful, and I have standards about what I do. And I'm a business owner. And the bottom line is I can't do any of that stuff unless I'm making money. I can't do this for free. And I think my audience is grown up enough to know that. If they're not, then they're not in the right space. There used to be a thing, certainly back in the days of blogging, because as I've mentioned, I am a dinosaur in internet terms. There'd be a lot of criticism for people trying to make money and start to sell things. I think there was a hangover from that I was just going to provide all of this useful free content for people. And then maybe now and again, I just asked if they'd pay me for something. I had to get over that because actually I kind of thought, that's really patronizing for my audience. When I sign up for something, I know they're a business owner and they're going to send me the freebie or whatever it is, or I'm going to attend the webinar. There's a little box for me to tick if I'm happy for them to send me marketing stuff. I'll tick that because sometimes you can't get access to the thing, and I can unsubscribe if I don't want them to sell to me. Yeah, I get to do that because I am an adult. And it really helped me to start thinking through what's my process when it comes to that. Do I get really upset and offended if somebody's selling to me a lot? Sometimes I don't get offended, but I might go, oh, this is really irritating. And I click unsubscribe. And that's it. One of the things that has really helped solidify this for me in the couple of years I've been away from this kind of online business space is learning a lot more about parasocial relationships and kind of almost being able to watch that with a bit more distance. I think it's really accelerated with TikTok and things like that. And you find yourself getting really invested in people's stories. And I can remember once just stopping myself saying to my husband, because I really wanted to tell him about this thing that this girl was going through on TikTok. And realized, I don't know this person. I just think I know this person because I've been watching all the videos on TikTok with them. We're not actually friends. If we met in the street, they wouldn't know me. And I mean, I think lots of us have had those experiences. Understanding those parasocial relationships and thinking, okay, that's not a healthy thing to be encouraging. And that actually, if I'm blurring the boundaries, if I forget that I'm a business, if I fall into that, well, I just want to be friends with my community, it's not a business thing. There's a danger of accelerating that parasocial, unhealthy relationship. There's been that real delineation of, oh, we're adults. If somebody signs up to listen to my podcast, they can choose to listen to another one. They could think, oh, that woman is awful. I'm never listening to her again. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. I have got to the point where I'm absolutely okay with that because this brings me to the other, and I think the real biggie. I've got a much healthier relationship with my business and myself in my business than I certainly did when I started out, but that I also did even just a few years ago. This is one of the trickier things. When somebody pointed it out to me, it almost felt visceral, like I'd been punched. I was working with an amazing coach, and he went, you expect way too much from your business. You're expecting your business to be your source of self-expression, your source of income, connection, community, your source of excitement, your source of fulfillment. And you should be getting a lot of those things from your life, not relying on your business to provide them. They were absolutely spot on. It took quite a while for me to kind of work through what it was that they were saying. What I realized, I had a codependent relationship with my business. I was too enmeshed with it. I used to talk about how your business can be an expression of you. I still believe that. But my business was my only expression of me. My business had become my special interest. And don't get me wrong, it still is in many ways. I love it so much. I can really get into flow with it. It's a chance for me to be creative. I make lots of connections through it. I really love running my business. And I now make sure it's not my only source of creativity and connection and self-expression. One of the reasons that I think I burnt out in my business, one of the big changes that came along after my autism and ADHD diagnosis, is looking at how my sense of self was tied up in my business. How that sense of being somebody who, unbeknownst to me, was neurodivergent, I'd always felt like an outsider, always felt like I never fitted. And my business became a way of finding my people where I felt that I could fit. All of that is great. It was the only way I was doing it. And I'd lost sight of so many things. So it took up a disproportionate amount of headspace, energy, and meaning in my life. This is not to say your business should just be this 9 to 5 boring, boring, boring thing. But it is to say that one of the things that certainly I did is that we can still fall into that. There's a number of reasons for it. Going back to our feminine conditioning, if you're someone who's been socialized and raised female, and this idea that everyone else's needs must come first. And when you have a need for self-expression, connection, all these very human needs that we have, that late-stage capitalism makes way harder for us to get just normally. And you find something, maybe it's coaching, maybe it's therapy, maybe you're really into tarot, whatever your modality is. And it feels life-changing. You love it so much. And that is great. I'm not criticizing that at all. For some people, it makes real sense to, let's turn this into business. This would be amazing. I would love this. And for some people, it makes sense for, this is just amazing. I love this as part of my life. You don't have to monetize every part of your existence. I think I got that confused. Because what it meant was, when my business was struggling, I took it as a reflection on me. If people didn't buy a course, it was like, well, they don't like me. I was so enmeshed with my business and my business success. I held back from selling because the risk was higher. It felt so much more vulnerable to talk about this thing that was so important to me, like an extension of me. And one of the major changes, one of the things that is really different this time around, is I still love my business. It is still an expression of me, but it's only one way that I express myself. I have hobbies now. I do quilting, I do stuff with fabric. I really allow myself to enjoy those now. I don't have to think, how can I justify spending this time if it's not going to be something I can sell, if it's not going to be part of my business? I can have that bit more distance when it comes to selling. Because remember, I'm a business owner. This is a business. it could be really helpful. And if it's not for you, that is not a reflection on me. And I used to say those words, but there was still part of me that was, it's not personal if you don't like my stuff, because it is personal, because it is me and it's essential to me. And I'm taking this thing and it's like, here is my heart. It's a much healthier relationship that I have with my business now. Like I say, I still love it. I still put lots of time and effort and creativity. I find it rewarding. I still do training, learn new things, and I love it. But I have more of a separation from it than I did before. And that makes it so much easier to get out there and sell the courses. I can view things like launches. I can do things like sales pages. I can view it with more detachment now. My friend Ellie Trier talks about a lot of the time business is like engineering. You work out what's gone wrong. So when something isn't working, you look for where the faults are. Is it in your messaging? Are those two bits of software not connecting? Is the sales page not hitting the marks? Are you not getting enough eyeballs on it? You can view it with detachment. And I always struggled with that because my nervous system would be so activated when something wasn't working. I would find it so stressful and so traumatic because I couldn't get that level of objectivity with it. And that's something that I have now. And so that has made sales so much easier. And none of this stuff is easy and neat. You'll notice that none of this stuff is, I listened to this meditation or I read this book and the whole thing changed. All of this is a journey. And that's why I genuinely do not believe there is one system of sales or one system of marketing or one approach that is going to work for everybody. We need to build something really bespoke for our businesses. That can be tricky and takes time. That's why I always say to people, if you look at the bazillion courses coming into your eyeballs every day on social media, if you look at something and somebody's saying, webinars are dead, or this is the way to go, or that was what worked 2 years ago and it doesn't work now. And you have that overview of your business, know yourself, and you know your own preferences and how you work best and your best ways of doing things. And you look at that and you can objectively go, do you know what? I think that would be a good strategy for me. Then that's worth exploring. But if you're looking at kind of going, oh, apparently that's what I need to do now. That's what I need to do now. Then I would say give yourself some time and step back. That's one of the reasons why when I put together my Supernova Collective program, I wanted to put something together that gave people the building blocks, the pieces and the engineering machine, as I now prefer to view it, these foundational pieces in the framework. So you can look at them and go, okay, if I've got that in place, that's great, but I'm loose on this. I need to tighten this up. And that's working really well for me. I love that. That's really effective, but I hate doing it. How can I still keep it effective and find a different way of doing it that I'm not going to hate? So it's always like working out this puzzle, but you know the pieces that you're working with. And then having the time and the space, regular contact, community, coaching, feedback, affirmation, and getting reframes from people, and that regularly, like every week, to be able to do that over time, that is the most effective way I have seen to be building a business. And it honestly is. And that's why I'm fucking proud of the Supernova Collective. And if that's something that resonates with you, it is open. The doors are open. You could join, have a look and see how it might help you. It's bloody glorious as a program. Look at some of the feedback and testimonials on those pages. They make me want to weep with pride because they're just, they're so good. So if it's something that you think, yeah, this sounds like something I need, my business is not ticking along the way that I would like it to be. I am not feeling good about selling. The income isn't coming in the way that I would like it to be. I find myself getting distracted and I'm not sure what strategy to be taking, or I don't know how to explain what it is that I do. If you are a service-based entrepreneur, if you are neurodivergent, whether that be self-diagnosed, formally diagnosed, or just suspecting, have a look. Go to joecasey.com/supernova. have a look. I would love to have a chat with you about it if you think this could be something that could help you. I can wholeheartedly say I am so proud of this program. It gets great results for people. And it might just be the thing that's going to change your relationship to sales, to bring in income, to earning an amount that you can thrive on in a way that isn't going to exhaust you or tip you into burnout. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. And I will speak to you very, very soon on the Quirky Brain Club podcast. And again, if you want to check out the Supernova Collective, go to joecasey.com/supernova.